Hi guys, I'm Frances Delande Castillo of BSN 19KT ERIKSSON. In this video, I'm going to discuss about the skeletal system, and I'm going to demonstrate the location of the palpating surface anatomy of the lower limb. This is the greater trochanter of the femur, a powerful protrusion located at the proximal near and lateral the outside part of the shaft of the femur. The greater trochanter is also called the major trochanter, the outer trochanter, and the lateral process of the femur. This is the patella. The patella is a small bone located in front of the knee joint. This is where the thigh bone or femur and shin bone, tibia. It protects the knee and connects the muscles in the front of the thigh of the tibia. The patella covers and protects the knee joint. This is the tibial tuberosity. It's the bump on the top of the tibia or shin bone where the patellar tendon connects. Tendon connects muscles to bones. The patellar tendon stretches over the top of the patella, or what we call the kneecap. This is the lateral malleolus. It's palpated and the distal extent of the fibula. It should be noted that the lateral malleolus extends further distally and lies more posterior than the medial malleolus. This is the medial malleolus. You probably know the medial malleolus as the bump that protrudes on the inner side of your ankle. It's actually not a separate bone, but the end of your larger leg bone, the tibia or shin bone. The medial malleolus is the largest of the three bone segments that form your ankle. This is the calcaneus, or the heel bone. It's the largest of the tarsal bones in a foot. It lies at the back of the foot or hind foot, below the three bones that make up the ankle joint. And next, I'm going to demonstrate the movements of the synovial joints. Flexion, a movement are generally in the sagittal plane that decreases the angle of the joint and reduces the distance between two bones. Flexion is typical of hinge joints or bending the knee or elbow, but is also common at ball and socket joints or bending forward at the hip. Flexion of the shoulder joint occurs when the humerus upper arm moves forwards from the rest of the body, which happens at the end of an underarm throw or bow in rounders. Extension or strengthening a joint. A movement that increases the angle of a joint and the distance between two bones or strengthening the knee or elbow. Extension is the opposite of flexion. If extension is greater than 180 degrees, for example, bending the trunk or head backward, it is termed hyperextension. This is abduction. Movement of the limb away from the midline or median plane of the body, generally on the frontal plane, or the fanning movement of fingers or toes when they are spread apart. This occurs at the hip and shoulder joints during a jumping jack movement. Adduction, movement of a limb toward the midline of the body. Adduction is the opposite of abduction. This occurs at the hip and shoulder, returning the arms and legs back to their original position from a jumping jack movement. This is the rotation movement. Movement of a bone around its longitudinal axis. Rotation, a common movement of ball and socket joint. Also describe the movement of the atlas around the odontoid process of the axis. This is where the limb moves in a circular movement around a fixed joint towards or away from the midline of the body. This occurs in the hip in golf while performing a drive shot. This is circumduction, a combination of flexion, extension, abduction, and adduction, commonly observed in ball and socket joints like the shoulder. The proximal end of the limb remains stationary and the distal end moves in a circle. The limb as whole outlines a cone. This is where the limb moves in a circle. This occurs at the shoulder joint during an overarm tennis serve. Pronation. A movement of the palm of the hand from an anterior or upward facing position to a posterior or downward facing position. This action moves the distal end of the radius across the ulna so that the two bones form an X. Supination. Movement of the palm from a posterior position to an anterior position or the anatomical position. Supination is the opposite of pronation. During supination, the radius in the ulna are parallel. Inversion. A movement that results in the medial turning of the sole of the foot. It involves the movement of the sole towards the median plane so that the sole faces in medial direction. Eversion. A movement that results in the lateral turning of the sole of the foot. It is the opposite of inversion. It involves the movement of the sole away from the median plane so that the sole faces in lateral direction. Dorsiflexion. A movement of the ankle joint in a dorsal direction or standing on one's heel. The foot moves toward the shin as if you are pulling your toes up. This movement only occurs at the ankle. Plantar flexion. A movement of the ankle joint in which the foot is flexed downward or standing on one's toes or pointing the toes. This movement only occurs at the ankle, for example, pointing the toes in ballet.